Welcome to Cooks and Cars. Hi, I'm Rob D'Amico. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. And this week is something special because we have a couple things coming up. One, it's officially summer. We're ready to go for that. And we're going to be grilling out all summer long. So, the hot summer months, the frost line, as they like to call it for the people up north, when it starts getting warmer temperatures up there. So some great stuff coming up this few months here, and especially in June, because we have, obviously, we just had Memorial Day. You're going to have Father's Day coming up, and the Big Green Egg makes a great gift for Father's Day. So if anybody's watching out there that wants to get dad a great gift, think of the Big Green Egg next time you're in an Ace Hardware, or go to our website, BigGreenEgg.com, and you'll find the dealer locator there. You can also shop online. Just go to, again, BigGreenEgg.com, go to the top, and you'll see the shop button. You can click that and shop from there. But it is that time of year, and I'm talking brisket, ribs, pulled pork, pork shoulder, pork butt, whatever that may be. It's that time of year, and we're going to be talking today with some of our guests. Grilling with Dad is going to be joining us to talk about the briskets, the ribs, the pulled pork. We're going to get into all that. And then we also have a special guest on the car side. Brett Massey is going to be joining us from the Triple F Connection. And there is a little connection there with Grilling with Dad and those guys, because he went out there and dropped off an egg to those guys and delivered it and did a nice little cookout for those guys. So something to cross talk about, if you will. We'll be talking about that. But right now, I'm going to be bringing on my special guest from BGETeamGreen's at Grilling with Dad. Maciek joins us. Maciek, welcome to Cooks and Cars. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, what's up, Rob? Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to chat today.
Now, you're in the Chicago part of the world here, and great city to be in. What's weather out there like right now, and summer kicking in for you? And we always joke, because with a Big Green Egg, you don't have to wait for the summer months, right? You can cook in totally a blizzard out there in the snow, and it's still going to keep its heat. It's still going to cook exactly the same. But it's summertime, and most people get out during the summertime. And especially, coming out of a pandemic, you had everybody locked up in their house. Everybody was buying grill products. Not only egg was up very well, but across the board, the industry has done very well. So a lot of people now, okay, I'm in the backyard. We got this new grill. We were in a pandemic. I still want to have cookouts. I'm going to be able to invite my family over, some friends. So what's it like up there right now?
Oh yeah, so like you said, the egg is perfect year round. I mean, I use my grill in the winter, in the summer, in the fall. It doesn't matter if it's snowing or raining; it just runs perfect. But right now, especially these past couple of weeks, the weather is getting super nice. It's sunny, it's warm. People are getting outside the house, firing up the grill, and it's like the favorite time of the year right now with weather.
So one of the big things we wanted to talk about is cooking brisket, because a lot of people see the brisket. Okay, I'm a little nervous because I got to go spend some money on this piece of beef, right? And you don't want to screw it up. And if it's your first time, you're always like, man, I'll just get a cheap piece of meat. I'll go do it. But that's almost the wrong answer. You don't want to buy, in my opinion, you don't want to go buy a choice piece of meat, because what happens with choice, sometimes it turns out awesome. Sometimes it turns out a little dry, or something doesn't happen, or it doesn't have enough fat in it throughout the, with prime, you do get that marbling. And now if you go above prime with Wagyu and different types of beef up in the A class and all that stuff, but you get those marbling effects. So I always tell people, if you're wanting to do it, make the investment at least into prime, and then start from there. So let's walk through picking up a piece of meat and then what you have to do at that point.
Yeah, so like you said, I always try to stick with prime for my brisket. It has that extra marbling inside, extra fat in there. So it's much harder to screw up if you do a prime brisket than you do go with a choice. Now, there's nothing wrong with the choice, but like you said, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes you get a better one, sometimes it's not so good. So for someone that's new to brisket or new to the Big Green Egg, definitely start off with the prime. Look for that marbling. When you're at the store and you see a full pack of brisket, and if you flip it over to the meat side, look for as much marbling as you can. Those little white lines of fat, intermuscular fat in there, because that fat's going to render out. add that extra moisture inside, tenderness, flavor. So if it has that marbling, it's a good brisket, and look for ones that are kind of even. You don't want them kind of odd shaped, because again, if it's even, it'll cook more evenly and it'll come out better in the end.
So when you say that, okay, you have the different sizes, you have a flat, and then you have a full. And sometimes when you buy the full, you do have that one side that's obviously bigger that you end up cutting off after the cook. And sometimes you turn that into burnt ends. It's a little bit different on that end. So are you saying buy just the flat, or are you saying, you buy the whole thing, just make sure that you're monitoring the temperature in the flat side first, because you don't want to overcook that.
Right. Yeah. So I always go with the full packer brisket. I find that they cook better. Just it's a bigger piece of meat. There's more fat in there, so they're less likely to dry out. Just when looking for the full packer brisket, just again try to find one that looks sort of even shaped. Not there's nothing really sticking out of it, and it just kind of looks nice. And then when you come to when you bring it home and you start to trim it, like you said, you do have that flat, and then you have the point, which was a little bit larger, and then you just kind of trim around it. Again, the main thing when I trim my brisket is try to get it kind of aerodynamic, right? Kind of even shaped. One side will be a little thinner, the flat, and then the point will be a little bigger. That's fine, but you don't want any little bits and pieces sticking off. You don't want too much fat. You want to trim off as much of that hard fat as you can, because that stuff's not going to render out, and it's just going to kind of, ruin that final product. So take your time, especially if you're new. Don't rush to trim. It'll take you a little bit of time to kind of figure it out, but the best way to learn is to just dive right in and do it.
So when we're talking seasoning, now you got the whole thing all trimmed out, you got it ready to go, you're getting ready to put it on the grill. How long before you go to put it on the grill do you take it out, let it sit out? I like to let the meat sit out just a little bit to get a little closer to room temperature. But you're cooking it slow, you're getting ready to season it. Now, some people do mustard, some people do olive oil. What's your method here?
So I'm kind of in between. So the last brisket that I've done, I did a mustard binder, a little yellow mustard. A lot of people are kind of thrown off by that when they hear it for the first time, but the mustard doesn't add any flavor. It only acts as a glue for your seasoning, so it kind of sticks better to the meat. So I've done it with the binder. I've done it without the binder, just seasoning the meat, and both ways come out fine. I think once you do so many of them, you kind of figure out maybe which way is a little better for you, but in my opinion, you can't go wrong either way, either with the binder or without the binder. And then when I season, so I'll take it out of the fridge, I'll trim it, I'll season it, I'll leave it on my cutting board, and that's when I go outside, fire up the big green egg, bring it up to temperature, wait for that to stabilize, and then I put the brisket on the egg.
So the brisket goes on. What do you have your grill set at? I'm usually about a 225, 250 kind of guy. And depending on the size, I'm letting it run for about at least 14, 16 hours. You? Yeah,
so temp range is the same for me. Between the 225, 250 range is kind of the sweet spot for me. I'll toss in a couple of wood chunks for some extra smoke. And then, like you said, just depending on the size of the brisket, at that point, you just kind of let it roll. Keep monitoring those internal temperatures. And then, once I'm happy with the bark on the outside and the brisket is kind of coming up to that 160, 170 internal temperature, that's when I'm going to go ahead and wrap it. For brisket, I wrap in butcher paper, which is just that pink plain paper.
Yeah.
It helps retain some of the moisture, but still allows it to breathe, to keep that bark, nice and crispy on the outside, so it doesn't fall off. And then it goes back on until probe tender at that low 200-degree internal temperature range.
Now, when you say low, are you saying 203, 205, or
So what I do once it hits like that 200, 202 is I start checking for tenderness, right? So the temperature is a good guide for when the brisket is done, but the main thing, especially on the bigger brisket, is it has to be probe tender, right? So you take your temperature probe, and it should go into that brisket in the flat or in the point, like a hot knife going into butter, right? No resistance. Correct. That's how you know that it's ready. And that temperature could be 202, like this last brisket that I did, it was done at 202 internal. A brisket before that might have been 204 or 205. So if it's tender, you pull it off. If it's not tender, wrap it back up, put it back on the grill, come back in 30 minutes, and check for tenderness again.
And paper's a big deal. Obviously, Big Green Egg now has some butcher paper out there, and I noticed I put it online, so a lot of the stores don't have it yet, but it's on its way. Trust me. But the Big Green Egg has its own butcher paper now, and a lot of people love butcher paper over tinfoil, because what happens with tinfoil is that sometimes you work so hard to get that bark on the outside. You want that crispiness and then that layer of it on top and all around, for that matter, and you don't want to lose that, because what happens with tinfoil is it'll actually steam it, because it's having a hard time releasing the steam and the pressure and the heat that's radiating through there, and the paper allows it to breathe, and you get a nice moist piece of meat, but also keeping that crispiness on the outside. So your recommendation is paper, correct?
Yep, that's my go-to with brisket.
Yeah. Now you can do it with tinfoil, but make sure, if you're going to do that, make sure it's wrapped really tight, because then it doesn't have an opportunity to steam as much. And let that, and sometimes I've even seen guys where they take tiny, like the probe, and they poke a little hole here and there to let some of that steam go. So it's not, making the crust, making the crust too moist. All right. So now that we've learned about brisket, you cut it across the grain, right? So explain that once it's done. And some people have a hard time finding it after the fact. So sometimes there's a little tip at the beginning where you can see all the grain marks. You want to cut along that line so okay, this is the corner I have to start on.
Yeah, so what I do, that's a good point, right? So when the brisket, before it's seasoned, if you flip it over to the meat side, you can see which direction the grain runs. You can cut a little notch on the corner. If you didn't do that and the brisket's already cooked, you can always flip it over and just kind of see. Sometimes it's a little easier to see where the grain runs. Cut across the grain on the flat. Then when you get to the point, you have to kind of rotate it, because the grain will run in the other direction. Slice it again, and it's good to go.
All right, so now that we got our brisket all done, it's served, you got it out, it's sliced, it's sitting on the table. You got some ribs you wanted to do as well. Now these, it's a longer cook, but it's not 14 to 16 hours. It's, you can do a turbo cook in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we'll explain what that is here in a second. But then you can also do a 4 hour, even a 6 hour cook on some of these ribs. Now talk about how you do yours.
Yeah, so the last ribs that I did that I've made were pork baby back ribs, and those, similar process to the brisket. Take it out of the fridge, season. I actually leave the membrane on the back of those ribs. I find that I do. I leave it on. That's
surprising to me, because most everybody you talk to says, you know what? From the beginning, you take that little knife, you get it underneath that piece of skin, you get a paper towel, and you pull it off. You're doing it the total opposite way.
I always used to remove it, and then a while back, I think I was rushing, and I didn't take the membrane off, and then I cooked the ribs, and they came out great. And the reason why I like it now, leaving it on, is because they hold their shape better. They're less likely to fall apart when you pick them up. If it's cooked properly, that membrane is not chewy. It's not off-putting. It has a little crisp to it, and it's good to go. Plus, it helps kind of protect the bottom of that meat too as well while it's cooking, so it doesn't get scorched. And so I leave it on.
Good advice.
Good results, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that, to be honest with you. I've never left it on. I've always pulled it off and cooked it that way. So you got them on there. What's your grill set at, and how long are you cooking them for?
Yeah, so with ribs, I kind of lean closer to the 250 degree setting on the egg. Brisket was like closer to 225, between 250. With ribs, I'm kind of on the 250 dot. So they season, they go bone side down first. With these baby backs now that I did last time, I cooked them straight through, no wrap, so they stayed on the grate. And I come back and I spritz them with apple cider vinegar every 45 minutes or so, right? I want to keep the outside nice and moist. That'll help adhere to smoke, get that smoky flavor, plus prevent them from drying out as well. So just keep spritzing, and those took about 4 hours, start to finish, 250 degrees, no wrap. And the target temperature for ribs for me is right around 200 degrees, right? So they're kind of fall off the bone, but not like fall apart, right? So I can still pick them up. They're not gonna just disintegrate. And then add a little barbecue sauce, last maybe 15 minutes or so, brush it on, and they're good to go.
Yeah, when you're talking about picking them up and they fall apart, what happens is if you get some tongs, you'll notice you get a great bend when you pick it up about halfway through, and you'll see the actual ribs bend down, and that's good. That's what you want. You don't want them to fall apart. You don't want them to come off there. But that's when you know they're pretty much done, is when you can lift them up and they bend and they stay together like that. But that's a tip. But you're saying no wrap, and a lot of people still will wrap them in butcher paper, or you can do tinfoil again, but just make sure it's really tight. If you're going to do that, there's no right or wrong here. That's the great thing about the Big Green Egg. You're not right or wrong when you do stuff. It works for, like, Grilling with Dad. That works for him. It may not work for me. I do it a little bit different. I'll wrap mine about halfway through and let them run for about an hour, hour and a half with a wrap. And then at the end, I'll take it off, and then I'll put, like you said, 15 minutes, put some sauce on there if I want it. Some people are like, you put sauce on your ribs? You don't do that.
Right.
So you can get anything you want. That's what makes the egg, and you personally in your backyard doing what you want to do.
Yeah. But even with ribs, like you said, with the wrap, like the baby backs, I didn't wrap, but when I do spare ribs, which have a little bit more fat on them, I'm going to wrap those up because it'll just help that fat render out a little bit more, because there's just more of it, on those spare ribs. So again, depends what you're cooking, right? And kind of what you want to get out of it.
So you got to take a trip with one of your kids, obviously Grilling with Dad, the month of Father's Day. You got to do some cool stuff with your kid. You took him out to an event, a big car show. Talk about that, because that was an awesome trip.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. So, my son is just turned 7, so he's at the age where he's really getting into cars, into these supercars. He watches all these videos on the internet, right? So anytime he sees like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, it's always a big deal, which is great.
Awesome.
And then through the power of social media, I met these guys in Ohio, or started chatting with these guys called the Triple F Collection, where they own this amazing collection of cars. We started talking about the cars, about grilling, cooking. And so, like you mentioned before, we were able to go down there, bring them an egg, have an awesome barbecue, awesome cookout. And then last month they had this awesome car show in Columbus of all these just crazy hypercars that they own, plus other people came down. So it was an amazing event for them, for my kid to be there, to see all these cars, sit in them, and it was awesome.
All right, what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. Real quick, though, how do people find you online? Your social media, websites, all that great stuff, because you have some awesome content out there. You're part of our BGE Team Green, and you have recipes that are just flat out amazing. So let people know where they can find you.
Thanks. Yeah, so I run all the Grillin with That channels, all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Best way to get in touch with me if people have questions is on Instagram. It's at Grillin_with_dad. All my stuff is on there, very easily reachable via direct message. So that's the best way to go.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to bring you back on, and we also have Brett Massey is going to be joining us from the Triple F Collection. So stick around. It's only about 35 seconds, and we'll be right back.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple to light, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at BigGreenEgg.com. That's BigGreenEgg.com.
Welcome back to Cooks and Cars. Hi, I'm Rob D'Amico. You can follow along with me on social media at Rob D'Amico. It's ROBDAMICO. Also, the show at Cooks and Cars. And joining us back on the line is Grilling with Dad. Maciek joins us. And we have a special guest from the Triple F Collection. Brett Massey joins us. Brett, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Hey, Mac, how are you?
What's up, Brett?
Yes. So he got to come out there, bring you guys an egg, see the collection, and let's talk about that a little bit. So did you get to try some of the great food that Maciek is able to do?
Yeah, so that was probably the highlight of the weekend. I know we had a little car show, but the highlight was definitely eating Max food. It was incredible. It just, you know, I like to think I'm a decent cook or grill master, and then Matt comes in the house and just, I think I cried a little bit.
Hey, Brett, we all think we're great grill masters, right? And then you're like, oh my God, this is great and fantastic. And somebody does something better. And then that's how you learn. Now you're able to take that back and do it on your egg at your house. But let's talk about the collection a little bit and why. Well, first of all, how did you get to this point with that great collection of, and we're not just talking sports cars, we're talking supercars and hypercars. These are the top of the top cars here.
Cream of the crop right there, right?
Yeah. So I pinch myself every morning and every night before I go to bed. It seems pretty surreal that we have the opportunity to be able to enjoy these cars the way we do. It all started probably about 7 years ago. We started with a Ferrari 458, which is our first supercar in the luxury exotic car world. And then we got a McLaren MP4 12C. We actually bought that one used. And Jordan and I started.
I like how you said it was used, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't have, and everybody thinks, you know, this may have been around for a long time, but we really started slowly. And honestly, it's because we just didn't have the funds that we're able to be fortunate enough to have now. And so 6 years ago, my business partner and I, Jordan, he is the Triple F collection. We started MF Autos at the time, which was a way to be able to share the cars with the community and kind of just keep our personalities and things kind of behind the scenes. We didn't want our name getting out there too much. Really just a way to break the stigma of the supercar owner. You know, a lot of people have met supercar owners that frankly aren't very friendly. They've had a bad experience. Jordan and I both have had those memories when we were little, trying to approach a supercar owner, and they kind of shrugged us off. They didn't want to take the time to talk to us. That's where it all started with the social media side. And we've always had a passion for cars. And then as things evolved with the business side of things, came more opportunity to acquire the more supercars and then ultimately the hypercars.
So how many cars are currently in the collection?
So there's a couple different ways to answer the question. The cars that everybody wants to know and see about, there's probably about 30. Then there's altogether, there's probably around 55 in the family. That includes, you know, the SUVs and things like that.
Yeah. So top of the top is the F40, probably one of those. The Speedtail. What's the top of the top here?
I'd probably say the Koenigsegg Regera. I know Mac enjoyed that when he was out here. That's
a really good one. How can you not enjoy it? That's
driving experience in that car is incredible. The Pagani Huayra MVBC is, I would probably say, the top. That is the most bespoke Pagani in the world, and we're very fortunate to have it. It has like a cult following with it as well, which I didn't expect when we bought the car. So that one's up there. The Speedtail, obviously, just being experimental prototype number 3. That one we worked the hardest to get with McLaren. We were about 2 years too late on the VIP list status to get offered that car. So, to be able to have it and spec it the way we did was really special.
Now, when you say bespoke, can you explain to the listeners what that means in a car of that stature?
Yeah, of course. So each manufacturer has a division that is able to customize the car. They say however you want, but some manufacturers allow you to do it more so than others. So I'll pick on my favorite. So McLaren has a division called MSO, which stands for McLaren Special Operations. They basically say whatever you want to do to the car. So you're able to pick any sort of custom color you want, any materials, any fabric. You can partner with other companies, as we've seen some of the social media guys do. So really, bespoke just means any customization you want to do to a car, they're able to do it.
We're talking to Brett Massey with the Triple F collection. We're also on with Grillin with Dad. Modcheck joins us as well from BGE Team Green. I'm Rob D'Amico. You're watching Cooks and Cars, and a great collection. So you put all these cars together. You're trying to kill that stigma of these hyper supercar owners. So what do you do when you take them out, and what kind of things do you do for let's say charities and events like that that are trying to raise money? How do you help the community?
So just bring awareness. Anything with cars that people typically aren't able to see brings awareness regardless of what the situation is. So you combine, like for example, the event that Mac was out for, 100% of those proceeds went to Make-A-Wish Foundation, which was great. We had a t-shirt sale that raised $10,000 just for the t-shirt sales alone. Also just taking the cars out in public to Kroger, Giant Eagle, wherever you grocery shop, always kind of stirs up a scene.
Grocery getter.
yeah. We end up being at grocery stores for a lot longer. We usually get texts or phone calls from the wives saying, "Hey guys, you've been out at the store for 3 hours," but we have a line of people just waiting to chat to us and see the car. And with COVID, it kind of changed things, but we typically like to be at car shows and open the doors and let kids sit in the cars. We won't leave until every person has had an opportunity to see the car up close and personal.
Yeah,
so that's really important.
Yeah, so that's really what sets you guys apart. Like you said before, like even, like these guys will post on Instagram, hey, we're going here, if anybody wants to come out, hang out, and nobody else does that, right? No other supercar owner or hypercar owner does that. And so for the kids to see that, right? Like my son was over the moon seeing this stuff, because where else are you going to, be able to experience that? So that's super awesome.
Yeah, from the beginning, we've said, I'm sorry, Robert.
No, go ahead, Brett.
Just from the beginning, we've said sharing the experience is the number one reason why we do it. And we'll continue to do that. Until we stop sharing the experience, there's no reason for us to continue to do it. So there's no point of having the cars if you're not sharing it.
Yeah, what I love about it, and you're talking about sharing the car and bringing it out places and letting people see, letting the kids get in and take pictures. And I've been in that situation, but still my kid's 19 years old and we still go to like Caffeine and Octane, and the kid's like, "Hey, take my picture with this car. Let me get in here." And he absolutely still to this day loves doing that. And we share that as, a father-son kind of thing. And I absolutely love it. What I do like about your collection is that you guys aren't just sticking these things in a garage and letting them sit there. A lot of people don't even take them out of the garage, won't drive them in the rain. You kind of use these guys as a daily driver, and we say you got 50 cars, so you can do one a month, but one you'd last you a month to go kind of through them. But a daily driver like that, you're out there, you're taking these things on the streets, you're going into grocery stores with them, you're out in the rain. And that's a very big surprise when somebody owns a car like this, because they won't let it out. They'll take the windshield wipers off of those cars so they know they're not going out in the rain in it. But you're not like that, and I dig that.
Yeah, it's something very unique about our situation and how we use the cars. Like yesterday, for example, it rained so hard in Columbus that you couldn't see hardly 50 feet in front of you, but we had the Bugatti out because we had filming to do. So we don't let the weather dictate whether or not we take a car out. We have a pretty infamous Speedtail video. It was actually the first time I got a proper drive in the Speedtail after we took delivery, and it was like a monsoon. And we had a video to do though, so we didn't let the rain stop us. And here I am, my first drive in the Speedtail, and it's a monsoon, but we're trying to get footage and content for everybody that wants to see it. And we're doing the same things we would be doing without a camera. It just happens to be we have a photographer and a videographer and an editor that are with us 4 or 5 days out of the week, catching all the content.
Yeah, let me give you props on your camera guy, because your camera guy, I love the shot. You got Jordan driving the van. You got the guy sitting out, the back of the van is open. He's sitting outside the van basically with his feet hanging out, and he's tethered off to like one of the back seats or something like that. It's a great shot. You got to see it, but I give that guy some props, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's been doing film his entire career. He interned as a videographer for a big company, a worldwide company, and he's been their main videographer for probably about 8 years now. And we did some little work together a couple years back, and then when we decided to do this thing full go back in January, we knew he was our guy. He's great to work with. His knowledge of cameras and storage and computers, I had no idea what all goes into it as far as settings, and it's ridiculous. It's a different language, and we're lucky to have him. And he likes to get out there and get the camera and
well, then
hang
it
out.
shows in the videos too, right? Like the production value on your clips is like second to none, right? No one else is doing that high quality of content with the shots
Yeah.
and the angles and all this, because
Yeah, the cinematics of the rollers and the B-roll, that's kind of our niche. I think that's what people like about our channel, because frankly, we do want to attract car guys to our channel. That's or girls. That's frankly why we do it. But we're also trying to mix a different vibe with the lifestyle stuff as well. But we'll never go away from doing the car stuff, because ultimately that's why we do it.
Or the grilling stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot to learn. I can't put any of that on camera until I get lessons or something, because I'm terrible.
We could take care of you on that, man. It's all good. And a lot of people, like we were talking earlier with Maciek and Grilling with Dad, is that it's one of those things where you get it, you look at it, you're a little intimidated by it, but that's also kind of correlates with you guys with the cars. You look at some of those cars, you're like, I mean, I actually do some stuff with a group here called the Merlin Auto Group. They're high end. They do all the, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, Rolls Royce, and they have all these cars. And you get into them and you're like, okay, where do you start this one at? And how do you release the parking brake here? And so my question to you, Brett, is what is your favorite car to drive? I know some look great and some are better than others, but there's also a driving car. Which one is it?
Probably the Regera. And so there's so many different variables and ways to answer this question, but I'll change my answer and just base this on street driving. It's probably the Porsche GT4.
Really?
Yeah, manual, 440 horsepower, so it's got plenty of power on the street. We put a JCR exhaust on it. It sounds incredible. One of the best sounding cars in the garage now. You feel like you can really push that car safely, of course, on a public road in the right time and place and get the most out of it. These other cars that are 800 horsepower and above, I mean, there's no way you're going to get full potential out of that car, even going 6, 7 tenths on a public road. So,
hey, I also saw some video of you, the three of you guys, in like these throwback MTV. What in the world were you guys doing there? It's like a throwback to the late 80s, early 90s. What'd you have there? What was that all about? And it's a great video, by the way.
yeah, that was probably the most fun we've ever had as a group filming. So we, the whole YouTube thing is what's next? Nobody, none of the viewers are ever happy that, you got to always have a new car coming. And everybody's been asking for a Ferrari. Where's the next Ferrari? So we had a couple McLarens that really didn't get driven much, which was the 720, the MSOHS, and the 600 LT. So what we did was we basically traded those 3 cars in, and we bought the iconic Ferrari F40. So to unveil that car, we dressed up in early 90s, late 80s gear. We had the block cell phone and the tank tops and jean jackets. And Jordan, he really got into character and ordered like a 80s windsuit that was highlighted.
Oh, that was spot on. Yeah. He looks like he belongs on MTV Cribs. Like,
oh yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. So we actually wore those outfits the entire day. We went to dinner in them. Jordan had the phone next to his ear talking to it the whole day. We really embodied the 80s, 90s spirit for that video. And I think it really transpired out on camera. So,
all right. So how do we get more information on the
Triple F collection?
How do people follow you guys? That kind of thing. Where can they find you online?
So we're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit on Twitter at the Triple F Collection. That's our name on majority of the platforms. You can also follow us at www.triplefcollection.com.
Great stuff. And then when's the next big car show? Do you do anything outside of the Ohio area and stuff like that? How far do you guys go?
So we really have no limits or restrictions on how far we're going to go. We've been doing it 5 months, and now that we're slowly coming out of COVID, we'll be able to travel more. As far as current scheduled events outside of Ohio, we don't have any. Yeah. But we're looking to get down to Florida. We're going to be going out to Utah to join Stradman and his crew out there. We're going to be probably driving from Utah out to California for some events out there by the end of the year. So all the information and updates on where and when and where we'll be posting on social media.
I'll have to get you guys out to the Caffeine and Octane and Caffeine and Exotics. I actually do some stuff. We got one that they do the Octane version the first Sunday of every month. We got one coming up this Sunday, obviously. And I go out there and I get on Instagram and Facebook and I do about a 30, 40-minute live with the exotic section out there. So love to see you guys out there one time. And then we also do the Caffeine and Exotics, which they do about 3 times a year, which is all the high-end special cars. So great stuff, man. Glad you're getting out there doing some good in the neighborhood, which is awesome, and we appreciate it. And I love seeing those great cars, man, no doubt.
Thanks, Robert. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been great. Mac, it was good seeing you again. Hope to see you soon.
You too, man. Yeah, for sure. We'll come out there again and grill some tasty treats for sure. So.
Sounds good, man. Set aside an hour so you can teach me
so they can teach you
something. I don't care what it is.
You know, we can start you off. We'll go easy. We'll do some, the burgers and the chicken and stuff like that. And then we'll work the way into the ribs and the briskets and the pulled pork.
That's perfect. Sounds good, guys.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys joining me on the show today. Thank you again to ModCheck. Grilling with Dad. It's at Grilling with Dad and the
Triple F collection.
All right, guys, we appreciate it. Don't forget, you can see us on our website at cooksandcars.com or go to biggreenegg.com to see some of the recipes from ModCheck. They're up there as well. And we'll see you guys next week right here on Cooks and Cars.